Today, I want to narrow in on one set of tools that my partner and I use every day to keep our relationship thriving. These are not only tools that I use in my own relationships every single day, they're also tools that I recommend basically all of my clients use. In my work as a relationship coach, I work with LGBTQ and polyamorous folks to build thriving long-term relationships that are so full of fun and adventure and romance that they seem surprising to other people at how long they've been together. If you were my client, I would have a unsexy suggestion to make your relationship feel a bit more sexy, and that's smartphone apps. Now, here's why. The day-to-day logistics of being in a relationship, especially a long-term relationship, especially if you live together, can be kind of romance killers. There's just like a lot of minutia to do around the house, a lot of things to keep track of. And so what we want to do is have systems in place for you to reduce friction in your relationship and create space for fun, adventure, spontaneity, and that's where romance grows. Of course, our phones can also pull us apart. I know that I and many clients that I work with at times fall into the trap of being on the couches and Instagramming and chilling, except we never get to the chilling part because we're just stuck in our feeds scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Technically spending time with each other on the couch there we're together, but actually not having a meaningful connection. If you're in an open or non-monogamous relationship or polyamorous relationship, you might also find yourself distracted by dating apps when your partner's right there in the room with you. Instead of our phones pulling us apart, let's use them to bring us together. Here are 4 apps that you can use to make your relationship just a little bit easier, and that way you can get on to the fun part. The Reminders app has been an absolute game changer in my relationships, and it's the one thing that has reduced the amount of conflicts and fights and tension in my relationship just like by so much. By putting things into the Reminders app that I know that I need to do around the house and setting up them on a recurring basis, it makes it so that my partner doesn't have to nag me to do the things that we said that we would do. It makes it so that our lives can just sort of like run smoothly on autopilot, and neither one of us feels like we have to be like the boss of the other person. I also use the Reminders app to remind me to buy presents far enough in advance so that I don't have to wait until the last minute, and I set those as recurring reminders as well, so every year when it rolls around I have a new reminder waiting for me. And I also use recurring reminders to remind me to plan date nights and other special surprises for my partners. Now, I could remember those all on my own, and I usually do, but having reminders in my app on my phone that I use every day makes sure that if there's a busy period of my life where I've got something else going on or I become really stressed, that I never lose track of the things that are most important to me. Having a shared calendar is so much of a polyamory cliche that I almost didn't include it in this video, but it really is so important, and so many of my clients aren't using calendars when I first start working with them, and when they add this piece into their equation, it just makes things run a lot smoother. There are a few different ways that you can set up shared calendars. Make sure that you actually put the things that you have going on in your life into your calendar. So that's like your work schedule, any appointments, meetings with friends, if you have other partners, like dates that you're going on with them, and then have some sort of way that you can refer back to the calendars with each other. The sort of least intrusive way is to set up a recurring check-in every weekend and just sort of look at your calendar in your weeks ahead, use it to sync up your schedules and make a plan for how you're going to spend your time together. That approach requires you to obviously like sit down and look at your calendars together. And so what my partner and I shifted to doing is that we share our calendars with each other so that we can see what we're up to. When we first started sharing our calendars, I think we didn't want to like let each other see all the details that we had going on, and so we set it up so we only shared like the free busy availability, and so I could see that he had something blocked off at different times on his calendar, but I didn't know exactly what it was. As we progressed in our relationship and trust each other more and live together and are now married, we have gotten to a point where we actually just share all the calendar information with each other so that we can see like exactly what's going on and make plans around each other accordingly. Using the calendar app to share your calendars with one another is of course not a replacement for communication. You still have to talk to each other. That's really important. But one of the things that it does is that it allows you to see in advance things that are coming up that might cause conflict or might bring up feelings so that you can deal with them well in advance rather than being taken by surprise by them. So that when the moment comes, you've reduced at least some of the stress or the friction that could go into those events. Third up is the Notes app, and in particular, setting up a shared folder inside of the Notes app that you and your partner or your partners all have access to. Human brains are like really bad at remembering things. We're great at making decisions and analyzing things, but terrible at long-term memory. So having a Notes app that you dedicate to keeping track of all the stuff that you need to keep your relationship running along is gonna be so helpful. Now, I have 2 categories of information that I put in this shared folder in the Notes app. The first is boring, mundane stuff. Accounts that we have, information about my parents' address, his parents' address, how to set up our TV and our smart remote, anything that we might need to refer back to in some point in the future. And the other way that we use this shared folder in our Notes app is to keep track of like fun things. And so we have OneNote for a list of present ideas for each other and also for our siblings and our parents and our closest friends. We have a different note for restaurants that we want to check out here in our neighborhood. We have another note in the app for movies and TV shows that we might want to watch, another one for date night ideas. And so that way when we're sitting around and we're like, what should we do tonight? We have an idea of things that we could do, places we could go, movies that we could watch right at our fingertips. Just last night, my partner and I went out to the river to read, just have like a cute little moment by ourselves. And then on our walk back, we passed 2 different restaurants that we thought were cute. And so we were like, oh, let's add that into the Notes app. And that way we're not just going to the same old restaurants that we're familiar with over and over and over again. We're sort of planning in advance to have some spontaneity and adventure to get us outside of our routines. The last app that I will recommend is some sort of meal planning app. I use an app called Plan to Eat. I'll put a link to that in the description down below. Any meal planning app that you can find is probably going to work well. You can also use your shared calendar from earlier in this video to plan out your meals if you want to. I like having a dedicated app because it helps me keep track of the recipes and the grocery lists and all of that all in one place. Meals are another sort of like tension point in relationships. It's not just about food for many people. It's also about care and commitment and quality time. And so like missing a meal together or not having a clear plan about what you're going to do for your meal can become a point of stress, or you end up just sort of like punting and getting takeout all the time and spending lots of money that you don't want to spend. And so planning out in advance, like I usually just plan it out like a week in advance. We sit down together during our weekly sync sessions where we also look at our calendars and we plan out our meals for the week. And this sometimes includes planning to eat out or planning to have leftovers or planning to do our things. We're not committing to every single meal together, but it helps us sketch out for the week ahead when we'll be eating together, when we'll be eating separately. It just takes out some of the stress in the day-to-day of it. So that way you're not having the same conversation every single night. Like, what do you want to do for dinner? What do you want to do for dinner? What do you want to do for dinner? Figure it out in advance and then spend the rest of your week just enjoying your relationship. This is like especially important if you live together with your partner and you're in an open or polyamorous relationship. And so that you don't just default to, well, we have all of our meals together. And so then if someone wants to have a date night out or see a partner in the middle of the week, it feels like it's disrupting your sort of usual flow. And so plan in advance to spend some meals separately. I could make a whole video about planning to spend time separately. It's one of the key ways to have more connection in your relationship is to have some time together and some time apart. And so use your calendars and use your meal planning to create some pockets of time where you can just sort of like be by yourself, away from your partner. And so that way you have something to reconnect on when you get back together. I just want to leave you with the reminder that keeping your relationship in sync is one of the most important priorities that you could have. And so I really do invite you to put into practice some of the things that you saw in this video. And if there is anything else keeping you and your partner or partners from having the relationship that you desire, let me know in the comments down below so I can help you out in a future video. And before you go, the YouTube algorithms have a suggestion for you over here. If you want to build relationships that are thriving and on your own terms, watch this video next, and I'll see you over there.